Hello guys, in this video we're going to use blueprints with Rotator variable, timeline nodes, and Lerp to make the effect of a door that is opening as soon as a player character, gets close to it. This tutorial is a demo of a course that we are preparing for blueprints, and if you want to have access to this course before any other person and have a great discount coupon on release week, please remember to subscribe to Wulun.com. Today we have an amazing course for you related to metahumans in Unreal, which is an area that is expanding every day. Before continuing, don't forget to give a like, subscribe, and a comment to our channel. Let's get started. What we're going to do now is to use rotator variables and the timeline node with the Lerp to create the effect of a door that will move when the player approaches to that door. So I created a very simple third-person project and I added the starter content to this project. Now, let me add a new level, very basic level, to create the demo that we are going to do. Rotation refers to the capacity of an object. I'm going to create a box here to represent this, of an object to go in different directions. As you can see here, we have the option to rotate an object, which can also be selected with the E key. And once we have that and we select the object, we have the possibility of rotate the object in different directions. We can click here and you can see that I'm rotating the object in different directions. This is the most basic example of a rotation that we can do to an object directly here in the viewport. This is not what we're going to do, so I'm going to delete this object. Now, I wish that this example works with a blueprint. So, first of all, because I always like to have order in my projects, in content, I'm going to create a folder that we call games. And inside that folder, I'm going to create another one that I will call blueprints, where I usually kept my blueprints. Now, once selected the corresponding folder, I'm going to right-click over it and pick the blueprint class. In this case, we want to create an object that will be the most basic of all. So I'm going to pick actor. And let's call this one BP underscore door, in fact, rotating door. Excellent. I'm going to open my blueprint. Let me put it here. Now I am going to add a couple of components. As you can see, this object is completely empty. So the first component that I am going to add, it's a box component. So let me get here, box, and I want to select this box collision. And the other component I want to add is a mesh. Take mesh, and I want to select the static mesh. And this mesh will be a door. So let me call it door mesh. I don't want this to be the children of the box, so I'm going to move it up. And now we have them both parallel. And the door mesh will use a mesh which is a door. The door belongs to the starter content that you have here. So if you are using the starting content, you will have access to this door. Nevertheless, you can use any other door that you want. So I'm going to take this static mesh door, which is this one, and now I'm going to play a bit with the size of this collider, of this box collider. So I'm selecting the object, and now I am going to play with the size, which is this one here. So let me move it something like that, and now to the top. And of course, now I am going to translate it as well. Let me move it in the location for the component set, which is this one. Let me move it up someplace. I think around here will be okay. That's very good. And the other thing I want to, let me make it a bit bigger like this. And the other component I want to move it is on Y. So let's move it to this side, someplace like this. I think this is going to work. In fact, I'm going to stretch it a little bit more, something like that. So when the player character is going to get close to this section and it's going to collide to this section, I want the door to open or to rotate. Let me compile and save at this moment. Now, I am going to add a couple of variables that will represent the rotators. It's going to be a type of variables of rotators that will give me information about the rotation of an object. So in this case, I am going to select here in the blueprints, add variable, and let's select two different variables. One, which is the starting or start rotation. And I'm going to select the type Rotator, this one here. And with Control D, select and Control D, I am going to create another one, which will be, as you can imagine, end rotation. Let me compile again, and now I have them, these both. What I want with this is I want to set the two positions of rotations for this particular object. Now, the end rotation, as you can see here, you can see the components X, Y, and Z. I want this object to be rotated respect to Z 90 degrees. So this, you can see all the components here, and I'm going to select in Z 90 degrees. Of course, you can make this object to rotate in any other different directions. You can select X, Y. In fact, you can select all of them at the same time, which will be an interesting thing to do. Let me compile and save. Now let's work with the blueprint events. So instead of viewport, I will select event graph, and I don't need none of these events. So I'm going to select them all and delete. Now, what is the event that I wish to start with? Well, the first one is, as I mentioned a moment ago, we want to detect when we get into the space, when we overlap this section of this box. So in Event Graph, what I'm going to do is select Box and right-click, and in Add Events, I will select On Component Begin Overlap. So this creates immediately a node that is related to this object, which is the box. You can see it here, it is related to the box, and the event, which is the corresponding On Component Begin Overlap. Now, I want to create two actions. One is when you begin overlap, and the other when you end the overlap, or when the player moves away from this section. It's not overlapping again the box. So in that case, I want to select the box again, add event, and on component end overlap. So we have the two events that I want. Now, the first thing I want to check is that the other actor is the player character. How do we do that? Well, first of all, right-click and select Get Player Character. Here it is. Fantastic. And now we're going to compare it with the other actor. Why the other actor? Well, because the box should detect what is the other actor that is contacting me. Because if another actor is contacting you, you don't want to open the door. So let's select that the other actor. I'm going to add two equals. So this is going to make a comparison between these two. And it's going to check if the other actor is the player character. Now I am going to branch in case that this is true. So you can, for branching, you can select here and look for branch, or you can use the B key and click, and you have also the branch. So the actions that I want to do is from overlapping to this branch. And in this branch, it's going to compare if this is true, if this condition is going to be true. So we select the condition here, and if it is true, then is when the things are going to be more interesting. In this case, I am going to add one new node, which is called the timeline node. Right-click, select timeline, and here you have an option that says timeline. So select this one and click and connect these two nodes from true to play. So if this object is overlapped with a get player character, we are comparing it here, and the branch says that is true, then we're going to go to the time overlap. Now, the time overlap, as you can see here in the description, it says timeline node allows values to be keyframed over time. Double click to open the time editor. Let's double click. So here you can set how a time overlap is going to behave as 2 points in time when you add in 2 points in time. So let's say that I want this door to be open in 1 second. So the first thing I want to do is to add a new track. And I'm going to say add a float track. Then with the right click, I'm going to add a key to the curve float. The origin point, I want it to be in 0, 0. So I'm going to select these values and click 0, 0. You place the first one here. Now I want to create a second one. Right click, add key. And in this one, I'm going to put it in 1, 1. The other thing I want to do is, as you can see right now, this track has a length of 5 seconds. I don't want this to happen. I want this to be just 1 second. So let's go and select 1 here. And now you can see, you can use these two keys to see the entire action in time in the space that is corresponding here. Now, at this time, the door is going to be open in a straight way. I mean, the speed to open the door is going to be constant. I don't like very much this kind of scenarios. So what you can do is to select here some type of curve that you want it to be. So I am going to, I like to always to test these kind of curves, but in this case, I'm going to select an ease in curve, which means that it's going to open very fast at the beginning, and then at the end, it's going to slow down the speed. This is an interesting idea. So I'm going to compile, save, and I'm going to close the time temple. So event graph. Now I have a timeline for this action. The next part is to define what is going to happen during that timeline. And for that, we're going to use the node Lerp. But you can't just use one node Lerp. This is the usual node Lerp, where I want to connect the 2 points that will represent the start of my rotation and the end of my rotation. The problem is that if I select just this Lerp and I try to select this start rotation and connect it here, as you can see, it is not allowed. So this is not the Lerp that I want. The Lerp that I want is called Lerp Rotator, which is this one. Now I can connect the beginning of the Lerp with A and the end of the Lerp with B. Now, how does the Lerp works? The Lerp works by defining a value that is represented in this alpha that will tell you how close you are from the point A or for the point B. If your alpha is in 0, then you will be in the point A. And if the alpha will be in 1, which is the end of this timeline, then you will be on the position B. So this is perfect for what we were looking for, because we want that in 1 second we move from a start rotation, which is the point 0, 0, 0, to the end position, which is the point 0, 0, 90 degrees. Let's do this. What is going to be the alpha though in this case? Well, the alpha in this case is going to be this new track. Now, I don't want to call it this new track because it doesn't give me any information. So let's go back to the timeline and let's rename this track. So let's call it rotation track. That's very clear. Compile, close here, and now we have the rotation track. So I'm going to connect this one with the alpha. Now we have the rotation track. Now, we haven't said what we're going to rotate. What we want to rotate is the door mesh. So let's add the door mesh here. And from the door mesh, I want to set the relative rotation. And in relative rotation, I am going to connect this value that we'll get through this timeline through to this Lerp. Connect here, and then the update will be here. Oh, and the object, this node connect with this one. Now we have the action of moving this door or rotating this door from the position where the starting rotation of 000 to the end rotation of 0090. And this will happen when the character approaches to this box. But I also want that the door closes again when the character moves away from the door, when the overlap ends. So for that, what I'm going to do is very simple. I am going to take these 3 nodes, Command Copy, Command V, going to move them down. Again, I'm going to connect this one to this branch, and the other actor as well, don't forget to do this, to this branch. And when this is true, and this is the part that I really love, you can make a reverse action. So what does that mean is in the timeline, you will move from this point to this point, which is really interesting. Okay, so let's go to that. Let's compile. This event graph looks like it has all the components. And let's play this on the scene. Now, we have the player start on this position. It's a good reference. And now I want to add the blueprint to the scene. So let's click, add it to the scene. In front of the character, let me put it like a place like this one. Start playing the game. Here is the door. And I want to approach to where I want it to pass through the door. And now, as you can imagine, I am here colliding with the box that opened the doors. And if I move away, then the door closes. Look at that. Door opens and door closes. I would recommend you, for you to understand this idea, is to try to recreate your door, try to test it. In fact, I will challenge you to do some other kinds of movement. What about I want the door to move, to rotate in other direction, or the door to move from one place to another? Instead of rotation, we're talking about the transformation in terms of location. So this is the kind of exercise that you can do to improve your use of the blueprints and the different components that they have. Thanks for watching this video. Please don't forget to give a like, subscribe, and a comment to it. And don't forget to subscribe to Woolen.com to get access to coupons for all the courses that I am creating. See you later.